Okay, now it's time to install OpenVPN server. Now to do that, I'm going to first type clear and press return. We're going to need, if we want to install OpenVPN server, we're first going to need the EPEL release repositories in order to be able to download and install OpenVPN. So I'm going to use yum. I have root access, so I already sued for root access. And I'm going to do a yum install EPEL-release. We'll hit enter. All right, it's found the EPEL release. You can see version 7.5, and I'm going to press Y to accept, yes. I'll hit enter, and then I'm going to have to do Y again. Now I have the EPEL release, and now that I've done that, the next step is if we're going to install the OpenVPN server, we're going to have to deal with our firewall. CentOS 7 comes with the latest firewall technology, which is Firewall D. The previous firewall technology that was used on Linux was IP tables, and I'm more familiar with IP tables, and I like using IP tables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop. I'm going to do a systemctl, and I'm going to stop Firewall D. Then I'm going to do an up arrow, and I'm going to disable Firewall D. And now I want to make sure that IP tables is installed. Now I already know it's installed, but just to double check, I'll do a yum install IP tables -services. And you can see that yum finds that IP table services is already installed. It's the latest version, and you can see it says here, nothing to do. So I just wanted to make sure, and also in case your distribution of Linux that you're using, if you're following this tutorial, doesn't have IP tables, well, now you know the yum command to install it. Okay, now that we've done that, we've turned off our firewall, we're going to use IP tables. So let's do a system enable IP tables. Excuse me, that is systemctl enable IP tables, and then systemctl start IP tables, and then I'm going to do a systemctl status IP tables. And you can see by doing the status command, it says IP tables is enabled, it's active, and it's working. So that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know if IP tables would start up, and it did. So now that I know that IP tables firewall is started up, I'm going to actually turn it off because I want to get OpenVPN running first, and then I'll configure the IP tables firewall, and that'll be a better way to go about it. So systemctl stop IP tables to shut it down. So we've removed Firewall D, we've activated and now stopped IP tables, and it's time to install OpenVPN. So now I'll do a yum install OpenVPN. It's found the packages, installing OpenVPN, installing for dependencies, PKCS11 helper. Perfect. So I'll put Y for yes and then enter, and then Y again and enter, and now it's installing OpenVPN server. So now that we've installed the OpenVPN server, we need to copy the sample configuration file, the server configuration file, over to the OpenVPN folder. Now to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change directories into USR user /share /doc /OpenVPN -2.3.6 /sample sample -config dash files. I'll do a pwd so you can see that again. So I am in root, user, share, doc, OpenVPN 2.3.6, sample-config-files. Now inside of here, if we do an ls command, there are some config files, and in particular we're interested in this server.conf file. We're going to copy this file, server.conf, and we're going to copy it into the root etc OpenVPN folder. So we'll just do that. We'll say cp for copy, server.conf to root etc /OpenVPN. All right, now that we've copied it over there, I'll change directories to root etc OpenVPN, and I'll do a list, and you can see there's the file, server.conf. Wonderful. So now we're going to edit that server.conf file. I'll type in clear, press enter, and now let's edit that file. So nano server.conf. Now I searched some initial settings that we can work with in the server.conf file. Scroll through. We're going to have to edit these certificate files, but we're not going to do that right away. So I'm just arrowing down through the configuration file, taking a look at all of the lines. What we're interested in is this line right here, push redirect gateway default 1 bypass dash DHCP. I'm going to uncomment this line by getting rid of the semicolon at the front. And then this push the DHCP option, and then there's some DNS servers here. We'll replace these right now with our own DNS servers, and we'll put 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4 for the moment. Those are Google's DNS servers. They're public DNS servers, but they're Google's. We'll also need to uncomment these lines. So get rid of the semicolon at the front. All right, that looks good. And then near the bottom, we're going to uncomment a couple more lines. User nobody and group nobody. It says here you can uncomment this out on non-Windows systems, and we just did. So those are the first edits that we're going to put into the server.conf file. So I'll do a Control X, Y, and Enter to save those changes. So now we've done an initial config on server.conf. We've installed OpenVPN server. Now we're going to need to create our security certificates and keys. What I'll do is I'll do a yum install easy-rsa. So yum install easy-rsa. I'll press Y and enter to accept, and that's finished. I'll press clear. So now that we've installed easy-rsa, we're going to make a directory. So we'll do an mkdir, make directory -p in root etc OpenVPN, and we're going to make a folder called easy-rsa, and as well it's going to also create a folder called keys. So if we put this -p in there, it should make both directories for us, the easy-rsa directory and the keys directory. So I'll hit enter. Now I'm going to use a cp command, copy, and it's going to be recursively, and we'll put an F in here, and it'll be root usr share easy-rsa /2.0 / for a wildcard. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy recursively and force this. We'll just accept it. It's going to be /usr user /share /easy-rsa 2.0 asterisk. So all files in the 2.0 folder. And where are we going to put those files? We're going to put them into root etc openvpn /easy-rsa. I'll hit enter. Let's see here, ls. So there's our easy RSA folder that we just created. So I'll change directories into that and then do an ls command. And you can see that, yes, there's all these files in here, including the keys folder, which we created. Now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to edit this vars file. This vars file holds some variables which we can edit that will speed up our process in creating the keys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a nano, and we're going to edit this vars file. And this vars file has variables in here which we can configure, and that will be used when we run scripts to build our keys. So I'm arrowing down through this config file right now, and these are the values that we're interested in. Export key _ country US, and then I'll just put in some variables here. Instead of California, I'll put in Oregon, and I'll put in Portland, and organization, I'll just put Dan's Courses, and then my email address, I'm just going to make one up. I'll say webadmin@danscourses.com. And my organizational unit, I'll just put Dan's Courses in here. And in front of the email address, webadmin@danscourses.com, I'll put my host name, which is Dan's CentOS-S3.danscourses.com. All right, that looks good. Okay, I'll do a Control X, Y, and enter, and now I set some server certificate variables by editing that vars file and putting in those settings. So now we can build our certificate of authority and our server certificates and our keys, our server keys. So to do that, we need to be in this folder. We have all these scripts here: build certificate of authority, build Diffie-Hellman, build key server, and we're going to use these scripts essentially to build those certificates and keys. So to do that, what we'll do is we'll say source./vars. So we're using as a source file our variables file that we created. So we'll hit enter. And now what we can do is, since we're building keys, we want to clear any existing keys. So we'll do a ./clean-all, and we'll start with the clean-all to clear all existing keys. Then I'll do an up arrow, and this time I'm going to do build-ca, our certificate of authority. And it's asking me for some information here, and this is the variables that we put in. Notice the US in brackets here, so I'll hit enter, 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 organizational name, organizational unit, and then common name. And it says here, example, your name or your server's host name. So I'll put Dan's CentOS-S3, since that was my server name, and then name easy RSA. I'll hit enter, my email address, and I'm done. So now I have a certificate of authority, and next we're going to do a build-key-server. So this will be our server key, and then I'm going to give it our host name. To do that, I'll put a $, open parentheses, a space, put in the host name variable, space, and then close the parentheses, and that'll add my host name to this script file as an argument. So we'll hit enter, And then once again, I have to go through the variables. Yes, enter, 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 enter. And the common name, enter, and my email address, and a challenge password. So for this challenge password, I'm going to use p@ssw0rd. And that's not a very good challenge password, but I'm going to use it just out of simplicity. And this is just a test case scenario. All right, there we are. An optional company name. I'll skip that, just press enter. And it says, the certificate is to be certified until this date. Sign the certificate, Y, and enter. And another Y and enter. So now the next is to build our Diffie-Hellman. So DH, our DH. So we'll do a build dash DH. And this hashing function will enable us to exchange keys securely over the internet or over a network. And that's what we use the Diffie-Hellman hashing mechanism for. So we'll just build that. You can see it's going to take a little while. So our build DH finished. And now what we'll do is change directory and go into our keys folder and take a look at our keys. And there's our keys. Notice our ca.cert, that's our certificate of authority. Notice our Dan Centos-S3 certificate file, the Dan Centos-3 key. There's our Diffie-Hellman or DH 2048.pem. So what we need to do next is copy these files. So I'm going to do a cp command, and we're going to copy ca.crt space. We're also going to copy our Dan Centos-S3.crt and the Dan's Centos-S3.key file, as well as our DH 2048.pem file. And we're going to copy all of those files into our root etc OpenVPN folder. Now I'm going to double check that they're in there, so I'll do a cd and I'll go ... That'll go up one level. Now I'm in the easy-rsa folder, cd ... and now I'm in the OpenVPN folder. I'll do an ls, and now you can see there are the necessary certificates and key files, as well as our server.conf file. Now the next couple commands I got from the Fedora website documentation for OpenVPN, and I'm just going to run through them really quickly. I'm going to do a restore context dash capital R V, and that's root etc OpenVPN. So it's going to be recursively restoring, I think, the security context for SE Linux. Then I'm going to create a symbolic link. So ln-s, and I'll type in this path. So that is root lib /systemd /system /openvpn /at.service, and then a space, and then root etc /systemd /system multi-user.target.wants /openvpn /at server.service. Now I'm going to pause the video and make sure that I type that out correctly. That looks good, so I'll hit enter. Now the next thing that I need to do is edit my server.conf file one more time. As you can see, we have it here in this folder, so I'll do a nano server.conf. Notice the CA says ca.cert, but the certificate says server.cert. Now, it's not named server.cert. Our server certificate is named Dans CentOS -s3.crt. So I need to put in the correct file there. And then the key is not named server.key either. It's also named Dans CentOS -s3. So it's not going to work if you can't find the certificate and find the key. And now it should find it nice and easily. Notice that the DH is dh2048.pem, that's fine, and the CA, ca.cert, that's fine. So all of those settings are fine. So I'll just Control X, Y, and enter. And now that's correctly edited. And now we can start our OpenVPN service. So now what I'll do is I'll do a system CTL and -F to force it, and I'm going to enable OpenVPN at server.service, and then I'll up arrow and system CTL, and this time it's going to be system CTL start OpenVPN at server.service, and looks like it started. And now I can do a status on that. Let's take a look at it. And it looks from the status command, I'm not seeing any errors. It looks like it's running. It says here on this line, started OpenVPN robust and highly, and looks good. So it looks like the OpenVPN service or daemon has started. Now the next piece is to configure our client, and we have a few more configurations that we need to do, but mainly configure our client and connect to our server. So we'll be doing that in the next video.